How's it going, YouTube? Well, it's that time of year for one of my favorite games, and that's the Auburn and Georgia rivalry, aka the Crybaby Bowl, is what I call it. There's reasons I call it the Crybaby Bowl, but I get in all that. Reason it's one of my favorite games of the year, because it's a win-win for me. Because I know either Auburn or Georgia, two teams I hate the most in all of college football. Well, along with Texas, the three teams I hate the most in all of college football is Texas, Auburn, and Georgia. But anyways, this game having to features two of them teams, which is Auburn and Georgia. And I know, and the reason this is a win-win for me, because I know either Auburn or Georgia's going to take an L. And I love it. That means one of them's going to have another loss. That's why I love watching this game. I really don't care who it is, because I don't like neither one of them. Well, I don't like Auburn for obvious reasons, because they're our rivals. I don't like Georgia because of their fans. So whichever one loses is a win for me. You know, I usually say, my two favorite teams are Alabama and whoever's playing Auburn. Well, in this particular game, Auburn's playing another team I hate, which is Georgia. So, like I just said, I hate Auburn for obvious reasons, them being our rival. I hate Georgia, but they're not our rival. And it's not because of their success, what little success they had compared to Alabama. They had some success, but it's very little compared to Alabama's success. I hate Georgia because of their butt-hurt fans. Like Auburn, their fan base are the biggest crybabies in the SEC. Auburn's fan base and Georgia fan base are the two biggest crybabies in the SEC. Always crying about Alabama. And I can understand why Auburn does, because they're our little brother. They're our rival. I can understand why they cry about Alabama. But Georgia cries about Alabama and hates on Alabama just because Alabama beats the majority of the time that they play them. That's what you call being a sore loser, my friend. I don't like sore losers, Instead of giving Alabama their props when Alabama beats them, instead they blame their coaches, want to say, well, if we'd have done this, we'd have beat Alabama. We're the better team. No, you wouldn't a better team. They either doing that or blaming the refs, which, I give it to them this season's game. I didn't hear too many blaming the refs, but they hate on Alabama because of Alabama's success. What y'all want Alabama to do when they play y'all? Come in there and lay down and let y'all run all over them? Would that make you feel better then? No, Alabama's doing what they're supposed to do, trying to execute plays and beat the team that's put in front of them. But no, you Georgia fans want to be butt hurt, sore losers. Well, the majority of y'all. I met a handful of Georgia fans that's okay, that's good. Like Uncle Lou, another YouTuber for once. I like him, he's pretty cool, and he's a realist. He'll tell you how it is. And he knows his shit when it comes to football. But most Georgia fans, a bunch of crybabies and a bunch of sore losers. See what I was going to touch on about this game. But anyways, like I was saying, if I was a bet man, I had to bet on anybody in this game, it'll be Georgia. But, like I said, I'm happy if either one of them loses. But just because we need Georgia to lose as much as possible. My heart would want, well, not really my heart. I would have to say my head would want Auburn to win, Like I said, either one of them's going to take a L, so that's okay by me. Who it is, I don't care. But if I had to want one of them to win, I guess it'd be Auburn. That's how bad I can't stand the majority of Georgia's fans. From the bottom of my heart, I really don't like you guys. Worst fan base I ever seen. I really can't stand y'all. I really can't. Like for example, I'm going to give you an example. For the last 10 years, I've been living and working in Georgia. Well, last year, of course, everybody knows, last year in 2024, college football 2025 comes out. And I was excited because that's the first college football game we had in a long time on the PlayStation. Well, it's on the PS5. Anyway, like I said, I live up here in North Georgia. I go to the local GameStop. And of course, yeah, I'm decked out in my Alabama gear. And of course, everybody's decked out, which is mostly Georgia gear. All the other people there are decked out in their Georgia gear, No big deal or nothing. I'm standing in line, minding my own business, and this kid couldn't be more than, 17 or 18, turns around and looks at me. We're going to get y'all this year. I just looked at him, smiled. I said, son, when I see it, I'll believe it, but that's what y'all say every year. I guess if you say every year, eventually it's going to come true. It's like they say, a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then. I guess if you play them enough, you might eventually win. So I guess that's why Georgia fans say that every year. But we all see how it turns out, But let me tell you, when I first started really hating Georgia, this is when I really started hating Georgia. Back in 2013, during kick six, when Auburn beat Alabama during kick six. Here we are, Alabama, not no rival to Georgia. And here Georgia don't even have a dog in a fight. But here's Auburn, that is a rival of Georgia's. It's called the oldest rivalry in the South. When Auburn beat Alabama on the kick six, Georgia fans are celebrating with the Auburn fans, their rival. And every Georgia fan I knew was pulling for Auburn in that game. How in the hell do you pull for your rival over a team that you're not even rivals with, over a team you really have nothing to do with? I know how you do it. It's because Georgia fans were butthurt from the 2012 SEC championship game. That's what you call a sore loser. When you're sitting there watching the game, you pulling for a certain team, you don't even have a dog in the fight. And you pulling for your rival against the team that beat you because you're a butthurt sore loser. That's when I first stopped liking Georgia fans. And in 2014 is when I dubbed it's the first time I dubbed the annual Georgia and Auburn rivalry the Crybaby Bowl. The biggest crybabies in all of college football. Matter of fact, Georgia, if you want to do Alabama any favors, move your state line west about another 20 or 30 miles. That way, Auburn can be in Georgia. Because y'all fit right together, man. Georgia fans and Auburn fans are more similar than Auburn fans and Alabama fans. Like I said, y'all both are the biggest crybabies in all of college football. Besides, we call Auburn West Georgia. We got about as much respect for them as we do Georgia. We don't respect sore losers and crybabies. No, we don't. Let's see, what else was I going to touch on here? Let's see. Okay, I done explained that. Oh, and another thing. Y'all making excuses for this last time Alabama beat y'all, broke y'all's home win streak. That's another thing about Georgia. Every time Alabama shatters a record, they pull another record out their ass. Like when Alabama beat, they had so many games without losses, and Alabama beat them in the 2023 SEC championship. They was like, well, we still got the most regular season wins in a row. Well, when Alabama snapped that, all of a sudden we got the most home game wins in a row. All right, now that we snapped that, which record y'all gonna pull out y'all's ass now? There's another thing about you damn Georgia fan. Y'all always reaching just to try to compete with Alabama. Y'all always reaching. Let me tell y'all something. Y'all not even close to Alabama. Y'all not on Alabama's level. As an all-together program, nah. Y'all won't break Alabama's records in this lifetime. Y'all wouldn't y'all have broke some records, but All of Alabama's records, y'all won't be on the same level as Alabama, not in this lifetime. Y'all got a long way to go to catch up to Alabama. Y'all sure as hell ain't got enough natties to do it. And I know I know how Georgia fans are. So, well, they ranked teams different back in the 60s, so you really can't count all them titles. Let me tell you something. Since Nick Saban's been at Alabama, we got more titles than y'all since this era. Hell, in the past, 15 years, we got more titles than y'all. You can't say those don't count. Got more SEC championships and national championships than y'all. So what's your excuse for that? Y'all not even going to come close to getting on the level Alabama is in this lifetime. So y'all can just keep reaching. Keep coming up with some bullshit stats to fit y'all's little fucking narrative when it comes to competing with Alabama. So y'all go ahead, y'all Georgia fans, y'all going to do that. But anyways, I'm fixing to touch on something else. And I know where it came from, and don't get me wrong, I like this guy, Uncle Lou, as I mentioned earlier. I like him. I love watching his channel. Anyways, comes up with the nickname for our quarterback, Tylenol Simpson. And of course, Georgia fans ran with it, and they all calling him Tylenol Simpson, which I kind of understand why Georgia fans would call him Tylenol Simpson, because at that ass whooping he put on Georgia, him and my Tide put on Georgia, they needed some damn Tylenol. After my Tide and Ty Simpson got done kicking y'all's fucking head in for the umpteenth time, y'all needed some damn Tylenol, which I can understand why y'all would call him that. Well, that's why I can understand why y'all would call him that. But since y'all want to do nicknames, I got a nickname for y'all's quarterback, Gunner Stockton. More like gutter trash Stockton. Because compared to my quarterback, he's gutter trash. He ain't shit compared to Ty Simpson. So, y'all can keep running y'all's mouth about Ty Simpson. But just remember, your quarterback, gutter trash Stockton, wasn't compared to Tylenol Simpson. But that's all I had to say about that. But y'all enjoy y'all's quarterback, gutter trash Stockton. See, what else was I going to get into? Was that it? Let me see. Oh, yeah. I kind of sidetracked there. I originally started this part of it to talk about the Georgia fans that's making excuses for this last time we played them. Wanting to blame Kirby for the loss. Instead of giving Alabama the credit, they want to blame Kirby for the loss. I heard some of them saying, well, if Kirby would have kicked the field goal, we'd have tied and went in overtime and won. How in the hell do you know that? Are y'all psychic? Hell, if you recall right, and if I recall right, say Kirby wouldn't have went for it and kicked that field goal. But I'm going to explain to y'all in a minute why Kirby went for it after I make this point. Say if Kirby would have kicked that field goal and tied it up. They were still over 8 minutes on the clock. You think Alabama wouldn't have scored again? Let me let y'all in on this secret. The reason Alabama didn't score in the second half of this game is because they didn't have to. Alabama was focusing on trying to get their run game started and resting their defense by playing the clock. But you don't think if Alabama had to score that they wouldn't throw a deep post route to either Ty Simpson or Jimmy Bernard? Yeah, they would have. If Alabama had to score, they'd have went back to passing it. But as you saw in the second half, they ran it like 75 to 80% of the time. And the only time they passed was to get a first down. They was playing the clock. Y'all don't think if Georgia scored, Alabama wouldn't have scored again? Especially with 8-something minutes left. Hell, you saw on the last drive, Jam Miller could have easily got 50 yards. But instead, he slid after he got the first down just to run the timeout. You Georgia fans are delusional-ass morons. Well, most of y'all are. Like I said, there's a small handful of good ones out there. But the majority of y'all are delusional morons. That's why Kirby didn't kick the field goal. because he knew Alabama pretty much could score again, and he knew they would score again. So he was trying to get the most points he could. But that's why your coach, Kirby Smart, didn't get the field goal. He actually knew what the hell he was doing. Granted, yeah, he may call the wrong play and put the wrong running back out there. But he knew if Alabama started that passing game up again, he knew they could have scored any time they wanted. So he was trying to get the most points he could for you brain-dead morons. But anywho, that's about all I had to say about that. But like I said, I'm going to enjoy this weekend because one of the teams I hate is going to take an L. And I love it. And as always, well, I know most of you Georgia fans ain't, which I don't care, but anybody else watching this, so I can deliver more content and better content, please hit the like and subscribe. And as always, roll tide. Oh, and one more thing. Fuck you, Georgia.